Okay. Reporter says a team of scientists has recently devised a new test that for the first time accurately diagnoses autism in children as young as 18 months old. Okay, cool. When used to evaluate 16,000 children at their 18-month checkup, the test correctly diagnosed all 10 children later confirmed to be autistic, though it also wrongly identified 2 children as autistic. Okay. Autistic children can therefore now benefit much earlier in life than before from the treatments already available. Okay. This is like a big jump, but okay.
So what is our stimulus essentially saying?
So our stimulus is saying that this group of scientists, they recently created a new test to test autism in children for as young as 18 months old, and it supposedly accurately diagnoses them. But when they like conducted this like checkup at 18 months, they evaluated 16,000 kids. The test had diagnosed correctly the 10 children later confirmed to be autistic, but it incorrectly diagnosed 2 children. But then the conclusion's like, well, now autistic children, I guess as a whole, can benefit much earlier in life than before, given what's available.
Yes. So what is necessary? So autistic children can therefore now benefit much earlier in life than before from treatments already available. What are they assuming why they can benefit much earlier in life?
I guess they're assuming that because one, the test is supposedly able to accurately diagnose autism in children at as young as 18 months old. But I guess like being 18 months old, like that young, has maybe what I'm thinking is maybe being that young diagnosed has like significantly positive outcomes in regards to like how they conduct their life.
Right. Or the fact that they can, like, somehow I'm thinking that diagnosing at that young, like they're able to even start treating them at that young.
Yeah,
Okay.
like they just have like more opportunities and advantages, I guess, for whatever is the case, education, motor skills, whatever it is.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start with A.
Okay. Oh God, no test. Okay. A, no test intended for diagnosing autism at such an early age existed before the new test was devised. Well, they said they had treatments, but no test. So at least one test intended for diagnosing autism at an early age existed before the new test. Okay, that's fine, but I don't think that shows that this new test is better.
But is our conclusion saying that it's better?
No, it's just showing that the autistic children can benefit much earlier in life.
Right. So what would happen if there was a test that could diagnose it this earlier in life? Then would there be a reason to now assume that they can benefit much earlier now?
Possibly, maybe.
Okay, so if I'm saying that, okay, now that we can test people when they're as young as 18 months old, now they're going to benefit much earlier in life because we can now determine it. Well, what if there was already a test that could determine them at 18 months old? Is there a reason to assume now, based on that information, that we're going to be able to treat them much younger?
That's where I think like diagnosing and treatment is different. But I'm not 100% sure. Like me personally, I would.
I agree. I agree that diagnosing and treatment is much different. But isn't that kind of where this gap is? Is that like, oh,
Yeah.
now that we're able to, even if like, and this is where it's not sufficient, it's necessary, right? Like,
Mhm.
we're not saying that we're not, our answer choice here isn't going to guarantee our answer choice. It's just necessary in order for it to be true.
Yeah.
But okay, let's leave A and go on to B.
A diagnostic test that sometimes falsely gives a positive diagnosis can still provide a reasonable basis for treatment decisions. Okay. Um, I don't think that's necessary for our conclusion to be true. like just because it can still provide a reasonable basis for the treatment decisions, like I don't know if that
How would you negate B?
um a diagnostic test that sometimes falsely gives a positive diagnosis cannot provide a
Yep.
reasonable basis for treatment decisions. So if it sometimes gives a positive, then it cannot give a reasonable basis. Um, I don't know. I just don't see how this one is gonna
Okay.
be
So
required.
so a diagnostic test that sometimes falsely gives a positive diagnosis, does that happen in our argument?
It does, yeah, with the two kids.
Yes. So what happens if they cannot provide a reasonable treatment plan?
Then they can't benefit earlier in life.
Yeah, I actually really like B.
Okay. Maybe I'm just thinking too into it because what I was thinking was like, oh, well, if they are falsely given a positive diagnosis, then they're not autistic. So they don't fall into the
This is saying-
category.
Right, but this is saying a diagnostic test that sometimes gives false diagnosis cannot provide a reasonable basis for treatment. So we're saying like if it ever is wrong, then it can't do anything. That would destroy our argument, right? Like it's saying that a test that can sometimes be wrong can never provide a reasonable basis for treatment decisions.
Oh, okay. I was thinking too specifically like about these two kids as
No, it's
opposed to
not
like,
talking about those. Yes,
what the test does in a general sense. Okay.
yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, especially given that. Okay. So yeah, I would hold B. The new test can be used to evaluate all children, regardless of level of development of their verbal skills. Okay, but there could be other things used to evaluate them. I don't think that's required.
Okay, I agree.
Those children incorrectly identified, okay, so the two kids will not be adversely affected by treatments aimed at helping autistic children. Okay.
Does that
Like
matter?
that, I don't think that matters.
No, because we're just talking about autistic children. We don't
Children as a whole.
Yeah, we don't care about those. We're talking about just autistic children. So those children incorrectly identified like don't fit into that category. So they're not even
Yeah.
what the inclusion is talking about.
Okay, yeah. And then there was no reliable evidence that autism could affect children so young until the advent of the new test. No, we know that it could affect them. It's just that now they're able to benefit earlier in life because they were able to be tested so young. So yeah, no. That's like flip-flopping.
So the reason that A is wrong and it says we know that this is the first test to do this. So like A can't contradict a premise, right? And
Yeah.
also, and just because, and this is sort of be like so nitpicky, a test technically could have been intended for diagnosing autism, could have existed. Like it was intended to do it. That doesn't mean that it was accurate.
Got it. Okay.
And so that's why A is not needed. Like there could have been 100 tests beforehand that existed that were intended to diagnose it, but it doesn't mean that they accurately did it. And so that's why.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering too, because when I saw that, I was like, okay, cool. A test could have existed, but the thing about this specific one is that it claims to accurately diagnose children.
Yes. Okay. So you were actually picked. I didn't catch that you picked up on that, but excellent.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, intention versus like what it's actually designed for.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. Okay. Yes, you were right.
Like to me, they're so different.